again, Smiling Observer, and I'm back with another segment of scary stories from Reddit. And no, I'm not doing this in the daytime because I'm scared. Anyway, now, as some of you may know, I like scary stories, but now that I am a learned adult, when things get too real, I recognize that and it scares me. But I have years ago learned how to control my fear. I learned by facing it head on. Turns out that really works, to face your fear head on. Look it in the eyes and say, I'm not afraid of you. Even when everything inside of you is seems scattered and frantic, you remain calm and you look fear in the eye and you tell them, I'm not afraid of you. And when you refuse to let fear gain control over you, you'll discover that you can conquer a lot of things. You can live more freely. Well, so I'm going to read some of these stories and talk about them a little bit. If you are easily frightened or scared, then you might not want to listen to some of these stories that I'm going to tell. But if you are a confident person, you aren't easily scared, or you're like me, you look at the facts and you are able to reason why your fear is unreasonable. That also helps. Then fine. But if you're easily scared, then you probably don't want to watch any further. But I'm gonna read some of these stories. The first story comes from, now this is Reddit. People have a lot of weird usernames. I'm going to try to pronounce this username, and I may put something up so that you can see the username and kind of like a shout out on Reddit. And how about that? I'm giving Reddit a couple of shout outs. But let me see. Hemispherectomy. This is Hemispherectomy story. When I was 4, I had an ongoing obsession with Silly the cat. My family didn't have a cat, especially not a Siamese. It was purely in my imagination. I drew pictures of Silly, talked to Silly, dreamed of Silly, made a space on my pillow for Silly to sleep on, had empty food dishes on the floor for Silly, and drove everybody mad with Silly. One day we went to a theme park sort of place, and for hours straight my parents had to listen to my talk about Silly, how Silly was waiting in a box for me to come get her so we could go home. This is the bit my mom, or let me rephrase that, this guy is obviously British, because he writes mum. In America we say mom, and you're in Europe or in Britain they say mum. This is the bit my mum loves to tell. On the way home, my dad cracked. Constant pressure about a make-believe cat. Poor guy had had enough. He began whacking his hand on the steering wheel and yelling, "You want a cat? we'll get a cat, and drove to the shelter on the outskirts of town. So when we go into the cat room, and without a pause, I head straight to a cage in the middle of the row, point and say, "Yep, there's Silly." There in the cage was a Siamese cat named Cicely, who stayed with us for 16 years. My dad built a little wooden shrine in the flower garden when she passed, and didn't stop moping for months. That is not scary. It is kind of creepy. Unfortunately, my mom passed in 2012, so I don't get to ask her if she has any stories of when I was little and me saying things that might have weirded her out. But lots of parents and lots of people have had those experiences where they've been talking to their daughter or to their son or to their niece and their nephew, and they ask them something and the kid said something that was just so incredibly eerie. But such is life. I'm sure we've all had that experience, and we look back on it and we think it was just coincidence. But you never know. You never know. Okay. I don't know why every time I start trying to do a video, I start getting congested in my throat. Starting to get on my nerves. Okay. The next story, and I only have a few. I didn't have time to copy a lot of them, and I can't pull it up right now because I don't have internet here. So this next one is from Sunset_Blues. Sunset_Blues. I've told this story before on another account, and it was pretty high up in the thread, so it might sound familiar to some people. I was a teenager at the time, and laying on the couch one night watching TV. Everyone else was already asleep. Our living room had a big window right behind the TV, which looked out to the patio. As I was laying there, I suddenly caught out of the corner of my eye a man's face pressed right up against the window, staring at me with this wide-eyed, crazed expression. I held my panic down surprisingly well, and just sort of calmly got up and walked into my brother's room and got him to look outside to see if anybody was there. And of course, there wasn't. In the morning, I went out to the patio to see if there was, footprints or something. I immediately noticed that the patio table was shoved up against the wall below the window, and there were nose and forehead prints on the glass. For someone to be in a position to make those prints, he would have had to be on top of the table, on his hands and knees, with his face pressed against the glass, looking at me the night before. And then he rounded it off with drugs, I assume. Well, I don't know if it's a he or not. I assume that it was a he. But, how would you like that? You're up late at night, by yourself, watching TV, and you look up at the window, and some dude has his face pressed against the window, looking at you. Now, in some places, that'll get you shot in the face. Just being real. But apparently Sunset underscore blues, didn't have a gun and probably did the right thing. I would have got up and walked to the window and smacked him in the face. Well, now that I'm an adult. And now that I have some heat, I would probably, well, I'm sorry. If I had some heat, and by heat I mean gun, if I had a gun, I would let them know, hey, I do have a weapon, so you can either leave or you can leave. So, but here, I mean, the laws as far as gun ownership and shooting someone trespassing on your property are very strict. Not that you want to just go around shooting people, but it's nice to be able to protect yourself against intruders and against other people who would, try to harm you. But in this particular case, it wasn't necessary. The situation was solved simply by Sunset underscore blues waking her brother up to go and take a look around outside. Obviously, the perp got scared off. He was gone. More than likely didn't come back. So, one of the best jobs, well, one of the most exciting jobs that I've had, that I absolutely enjoyed, was delivering the newspaper. The pay was terrible, but only because all that work I did and I only came out $100. That's all that work I did and all the money that I made and spent. The money that I made compared to the money that I spent was only like $100 over. So I only made out $100 over after all that work. So the pay was terrible. But if the pay was $11 an hour to deliver newspapers, I'm in there. I would do that. But, oh well. Anyway, I said that to say this. It required me to be out at night. So I'm out at night in the dark, and I go from house to house, and I leave the newspaper, and I'm in and I'm out. And so I got to see a lot of what people don't normally see because they're at home in bed. But anyway, I'm glad that Sunset underscore blues lived to tell this story, lived to share this story, and wasn't, horribly attacked and hurt, and their family was safe. So, relatively speaking anyway. But, here we go. Next story. The next story is from Billyooo. Billy with 3 O's. Billyooo. Okay. When I was around 20, my little cousin was sleeping over, and he had been known to sleepwalk, but we never thought anything of it. He was about 8 years old or so, and one night I'm up playing video games on the Xbox around midnight. Nathan walks into the room, obviously sleepwalking. So I say, Nathan, go back to bed, buddy. But he just stands there. So I say again, Nathan, go to bed. And he just stands still and says, don't shoot the bear. I laugh a little bit as he again, but a little louder says, don't shoot the bear. I said, okay, Nathan, and gently walk him back to bed. Fast forward 4 years later, I'm sleeping in my room with my new girlfriend, who I only known for about a month. It's one of those, it's one of the first times she is sleeping over, and very early in the morning, about 2 a.m., I sense her getting out of bed. I sort of sit up in bed and watch as she walks over to the wall, head sort of down, and just stands there. Okay, whatever. She's sleepwalking, nothing I haven't experienced before. She then turns around like straight paranormal activity status and faces me. I am still cool as a cucumber at this point and ask her, hey, are you okay? Nothing. So again, are you okay? Then most freaked me out I had ever been in my I'm sorry. Then the most freaked out I had ever been in my entire life hit me like a freight train as my heart sank. Her head sort of looked up in my direction, eyes closed, and she says, you have to save the bear. I jumped out of bed, grabbed her, and gently shook her. Hey, wake up. You're sleepwalking and talking. And hustled her back to bed. I didn't sleep that night, and to this day avoid going camping where the chances of running into a bear and falling into a scenario where I may have to save it are a possibility. That is creepy. First, your 8-year-old nephew tells you, don't shoot the bear. Don't shoot the bear. 4 years later, your girlfriend pulls a paranormal activity episode and tells you you have to save the bear. That is creepy. Oh my goodness gracious. That's scary. What scares me more is not the fact of the coincidence of the nephew and the new girlfriend both telling him, you've got to save the bear, don't shoot the bear. What scares me more is that he's with a girl who, while he's sleeping, will wake up and just stand there and stare at him while he sleeps. That's creepy. That's creepy. Cause see me, I saw paranormal activity. I saw it years later. In fact, I saw it like early 2014. I still believe that it was real. No one ever told me, hey, it's a movie, it's a found footage movie, but it's not real. I thought everything that happened in the movie was real. So, when she got up, spoiler alert, when she got up and she would just stare at him throughout the night, that creeped me out. And then she finally gets up and she walks, she stands there and she stares at him for a swing and watches him for a little while. Then she goes downstairs and she starts screaming her lungs out. And this guy gets up and he runs down there to go help her. And all of a sudden you hear the, you know. And then she comes back upstairs. She's covered in blood. She has a knife. And she just sits there by the bed and rocks all night long till like the sun comes up. And then it's like well into the afternoon. I'm talking about late afternoon, like 3, 4. Her friend comes over to check on her to see what's up and finds her boyfriend bled out on the floor, and she screams and she leaves. And then clearly she calls the cops and the police come. And she didn't move until the police came upstairs. And she approached them and the police is telling her, stop, drop the knife, stop. And she doesn't stop and they gun her down. But still, the fact that she just stood there and watched him while he's sleeping. Alright, he sleep like a rock. It wouldn't be hard for someone to take me out while I'm sleeping because I sleep like a rock. But at the same time, I kind of have a natural paranoia. I don't know what it is. I don't think it was because of anything that my mother did, but I would close the blinds, I would close and lock the door, I would make sure the windows are locked, I would make sure all the windows in the rooms were locked, and I would make sure all the doors in the house were closed. I don't know why I'm like that. That's just me. That's just how I am. So, and it's not because I'm afraid. It's not because I'm paranoid. I think it's more of I think it falls into OCD. I have to have all the windows closed, all the doors locked, all the doors closed, all the windows closed, all the blinds closed. Unless I'm letting fresh air in, then I have specific windows open and only as long as I need them, and then I close them again. But that's just me. Okay. So, that was pretty good, Billyooo. That was pretty good. Scary, creepy. Did you continue to date that girl? I don't know. I don't know if I could continue to date a woman that stands there like out of paranormal activity and watches me while I'm sleeping, you know, and I'm like, really? No. I'm not going to date you. I'm not going to marry you because you got demons. Okay, next story. Okay. This story is by Dancemasterafro. Dancemasterafro. I was walking home from a pub in the city when I saw a girl pull up next to when I saw a car pull up next to a very, very drunk girl who was sitting in the gutter. Something just didn't feel right about the situation, so I walked over just as she was getting into the car and asked her if she was okay. I was the passenger side door it was the passenger side with the door open and the girl leaning in talking to the driver as he was telling her to get in the car. He kept saying he was a taxi, urging her to get into the car. When he started reaching for her hand to pull her in, I looked at him and he was sweating and staring at me. He looked me in the eye and said, "I am a taxi." That's when I noticed that there were 2 other men in the back seat of his car, staring at me and the girl. The driver got a hold of the girl and started to pull her into the car when I grabbed her and told her he wasn't a taxi. All the while, he's got this crazy look in his eyes and he just keeps saying, "I am taxi," over and over again. I took the girl away from the car and the men started to speak in a foreign language and then began to shout at me. I told the girl I will call her a taxi, but that car wasn't a taxi. It had no radio, no meter, no markings, no license, etc., etc. Plus, there were 2 men in the back. The facts seemed to dawn on her and sober her up. The men in the car drove off when I took a picture of their license plate and tried to get a picture of them. Well, I've got to say, good job, Dancemasterafro. You just saved a young girl's life. You just saved her from human traffickers. Now, I am 100% against human traffickers. When I saw Taken, the first one, obviously, I had no idea that human trafficking was going on like that. But apparently it does go on. I fear for the children that I see missing when I walk into Walmart and I look up at that billboard of all the missing kids. I fear for them because who knows where they are, how they're being treated. They have been stolen away from their family and friends, and they're being taken and they're being abused, and who knows whatever else. Now Walmart, through doing that, has helped to find a lot of missing children, but still there's so many that are missing. Here in Tacoma, well, I'm not in Tacoma, but Tacoma's like 25, 30 miles away from where I am right now. And in Tacoma, there was a family at the bowling alley, and the lady had a 3-year-old daughter. I can't pronounce her name. It was like the kind of name that blacks are known to give their kids. But I think the girl's name is Crystal or something like that. It's a weird name, but I think that was in 2002, 2004. I'm not sure. Around that time frame, they were at the bowling alley, and the little girl just shows up missing. Well, she shows up missing. She goes missing, and no one has a clue where this little girl is. No one saw anything. No one had a lead on where this little girl could be. She was just 3 years old. She barely knows her family. She can't defend herself. And these people, whoever they were, or whatever, maybe it was one person, took the child, and to this day we have no idea where this child could be. There were, no remains to be found. The child is nowhere to be found. It's just, where is she? It's always bothered me. Here in the state of Washington, we have a serious problem with pedophilia. We have a serious problem with pedophiles. And for the longest, they wouldn't, it's like, rather than lock these people up, they want to put them in a group home, and they want to put that group home in your neighborhood, and it's like, why would you do that, And so what ended up happening was, since that time, Washington State has legalized weed, has legalized the use of medicinal and recreational marijuana. Me personally, I'm against that. I'm still against that. I am not against it being used for medicinal purposes. I am against people using it for recreational purposes. But at the end of the day, that's just my opinion. What people want to do is up to them, so. But here is a positive that came with legalizing weed. A lot of the people that were incarcerated for possession of marijuana or the intent to distribute it, a lot of those people, with minor offenses, I believe, if I understand correctly, don't quote me on this, but a lot of those people, they're looking at letting out of jail. And I think that's only right. I mean, that I agree with. I mean, it was just, even though I am against the use of it recreationally, I understand that in legalizing it and making it, decriminalizing it, they've actually, they could actually make a lot of room in the prisons for the pedophiles. Because these people, if you can't keep your hands off children and you want to take them and you want to rape them and you want to cut them up in little pieces and bury them in your backyard, you need to be put away for a very, very long time. And really, I believe they should just take you out back and put a bullet in your head. I know you don't expect it from an ASMR video. Please forgive me for that. But I feel passionately about people who would harm a child, who would harm the innocent, who would harm people who can't defend themselves. That's just not right. And I believe that people who have the power to do something about it should. But I understand we have laws for a reason. I just wish our laws didn't work for the bad guys more than they do the good guys. And I just wish that they would do a better job of executing the law, in that they would do a better job at making sure that the person that they are putting away is in fact guilty. I mean, we can't be executing innocent people. We can't be incarcerating innocent people. That's just not right. I mean, do a better job and stop trying to get numbers. Oh, well, we'll stop trying to meet your quotas. Why don't you focus on actually solving the ills of society by arresting the proper people with a proper investigation? But whatever, I know there's a lot involved with it, and I know that I don't know all the details, so just bear with me on that, or for that matter, just ignore me on that. But human trafficking is a very, very big deal, not just in Dancemasterafro's country, but here in America and in a lot of places. In fact, here's something from a deleted responder to Dancemasterafro. Sounds more like sex trafficking to me. West Michigan is an amazing place to live, but the one problem we have is sex trafficking. This sounds almost exactly like many of the reports of women that go missing. They're shipped overseas, mainly to the Middle East, used up and killed, never to be heard of again. We had one a couple of years ago with a girl that worked at an Exxon station in Norton Shores, Michigan. The foreign owner of the store, who upon research is shown to have ties in the Middle East, as well as some shady doings online, proudly admitted on the news after the abduction that he only hired attractive women and that his store has no security cameras whatsoever. He only schedules one employee on duty at a time. Late one evening, the female employee goes missing, leaving all her personal belongings behind. No money, no merchandise was missing. A suspect vehicle is caught on several cameras of nearby businesses, a Silverton a silver town and country. A passerby notices somebody adjusting something large in the back of the van behind the store, slamming the rear door and taking off. During the investigation, the owner didn't seem to show any guilt or even bothered that the employee was missing. What's better is that one of his friends owns a silver town and country matching the description. The owner protests getting security cameras, but finally does after everybody boycotts him. He got a single low-end camera with several fake cameras as well. The police kept saying he is not a suspect, and he still runs that store. It only has young women working there alone. The owner himself fits the description from passerbys who saw him stuffing her in the van and shutting the door exactly, yet police say he is not a suspect. Many of us think the guy is part of the sex trafficking ring here in West Michigan, but the case has gone cold and nobody seems to care. The girl or any more evidence was never found. There's an article that shows the type of guy the owner is. He was even openly threatening a group of reporters a week later. They would leave in body bags if they did not all get off his property immediately. The guy is a real scumbag. I think I'm gonna go ahead and post this link in the bottom because more people need to know and understand about human trafficking. We just can't let this thing go by. We can't just stand by and ignore it. We've got to do like Dancemasterafro and stand up, not just let the girl get taken, not just stand by and watch kids get snatched up off the streets. We got to do something about this. This is ridiculous. Now he has more info here. I know friends and family from the visit of the store property, and that's hired an attorney on the command. I should tell Press he was in the home about it. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna post this in the bottom because people need to be a little more aware of human trafficking. It's a real problem all over the world, but especially in places that you wouldn't think, like here in little town America, when people are getting snatched up. I actually met a guy when I was in the Marine Corps that said his sister went to the store and they hadn't seen her since. What happened? Somebody just snatched her up. And he expressed wishing that he knew where his sister was. And I remember years ago, the Green River murderer was caught. And they finally discovered that it was him, the man they had been looking for all this time. And they even found out that he had been brought in before. This man had been soliciting and murdering prostitutes for years. Years. I mean, over a 30-year span. Approximately. He'd been meeting prostitutes, and when he was finished with them, he was murdering them, discarding them like trash, and in some cases coming back and having sex with the body. Disgusting guy. And do you know why they won't execute him? Because he helped them find the other bodies. He made a plea deal. Whatever. I'm not going to even get on my position with capital punishment, but I personally believe scumbags like this deserve to die. Plain and simple. No questions asked. No protests made. And he was guilty. He was absolutely guilty. I remember reading in the paper about the responses of the families who came to the courtroom to confront this guy. And some families were, they were more passive. And they were like, you know what, we forgive you. They forgive him, but, he still had to serve his time and whatnot. But they let him know, we forgive you. One girl, she's like 20-something. Actually, right now, she's probably like well into her 30s. Her early to mid-30s. Her mother was one of his victims. And then there was another guy. He was an Asian guy. And he was angry. And I read what he said. He said something to the effect of, well, I guess I can't remember what exactly he said, but he was so angry. He had actually been out looking for his sister. He was out looking for her. He wanted to help her. He was out looking for her. And this guy snatched her up and murdered her. So, his face is the face that I remember the most. I remember that anger and that frustration that he had. And this guy murdered his sister. And granted, I disagree with prostitution. I disagree with women who sell their bodies. I disagree with the sex trade. But, what can you do? Prostitution is the oldest profession. It's been going on for longer than America's been a country. It's been going on for a very, very, very long time. I don't know what makes women become prostitutes. I don't know what it is that happens in their brain that make them think that this is the best option for them. But it's very disheartening to know that there were guys like Gary Ridgway out there preying upon them, murdering them, and discarding them because people think very little of them, rather than trying to help them to fix whatever I'm going to assume is a mental condition that would cause them to sell their bodies like that. But let's move on. I didn't anticipate the stories that I copied to be so intense. I didn't read them all. I didn't realize they were gonna flare up my emotions and make me bothered. But whatever the case, here's another one. This one is by Rugdivot. 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 Okay. Was forced to give a ride to a criminal one night after getting off work at 2 a.m. I was completely alone in an empty parking lot, and he approached from behind a building as I opened my car. I offered the car, but he didn't want it. He only wanted a ride, and the threat was implied. His hands and his face were bloody, and he said he had just been jumped. I didn't see much choice, so I gave him a ride. It turned out okay, but I called 911 when I got home. Detective came the next day and took a statement. Years later, another detective came to get another statement. Turns out he may have been involved in a robbery/murder. So many years had passed, I couldn't remember much detail. Don't know what happened after that. More details. I worked and lived in a very large metropolitan area. The first detective was from the police department where I lived. The second detective was from the police department where I worked. I assumed that my story was filed away somewhere and didn't get any notice until they started to hunt down other leads. That's gotta be frightening. You go into your car, you're going to work, and some guy covered in blood threatens you to give him a ride. Didn't want the car, he just wanted a ride. Oh, wow. I work in the security industry, and one of the things that we try to do is when we deal with people, we try to remember things like hair color, eye color, what are they wearing, do they have any tattoos, you know. You try to take all of this in and remember it so that in case you have to do a report, you have a pretty good description of what's being sought after, who's being looked for. I had a situation just last night where I'm not going to go into specifics of detail on this forum, but suffice it to say, if the two men were in front of me again, I probably wouldn't know them. I may not recognize them, but I do know what kind of vehicle they drove. Now, what I don't know was their license plate, which I had a clear view of their license plate. And because my mind was working and I was concentrating on making a post about it, I failed to write down their license plate. And I'm kicking myself because if something happens later, then if I had a license plate, the police could be on that. They could have a better, a stronger lead. But right now, the information that I remember right now, it's so vague. There's so many people that can match that description. Well, yeah, so I'm going to leave that alone. I'm not going to go any further because I might give you more information than I really want to give you. But anyway, let's see. How many more do we have? Oh, we got lots more. But that was Rugdivot. Okay. This one is from ThechiefDUB. And I don't know what DUB stands for. But ThechiefDUB, ThechiefDUB. This reminds me of my grandfather. He's been dead about 10 years now. Okay, ThechiefDUB is responding to the Rugdivot. Okay, this reminds me of my grandfather. He's been dead about 10 years now. But when he was in his 70s, two guys tried to carjack him at traffic lights. This was in Ireland, so no guns involved. One guy leans in the driver's side window and makes a grab for the keys. The other guy gets in the passenger door and tries to push my grandfather out of the car. In one move, Paddy, I always called him by his first name, Paddy grabs the hand of the guy who is going for the keys and jams it against the dash, while at the same time swivels in his seat and kicks the other guy full in the face, sending him back out onto the road. But he's not finished yet. Still holding the other guy's arm, he slams on the accelerator and drags him screaming down the street for long enough drags him screaming down the street for long enough to convince the guy he is dead and start begging for mercy, and then just lets him drop off into the line of traffic. Paddy was always just a really kind and funny man in my eyes, until this happened, and I realized he was actually a boss. Now, I say boss I edited that. What he really calls his grandpa Patty, I won't say. Maybe I can give you some initials. B-A-M-F. Oh, Fugees is bad. I don't use profanity, so, but 70 years old. Grabbed this dude's head and jams it into the dash. Kicks this dude full in the face, sending him back out to the streets. Slams on the brakes, dragging this fool along until he starts to cry for mercy. Then he just lets his arm go. Guess who won't be carjacking people anymore? The only thing that I could think about is while Patty's driving away, is some shades coming down in front of his eyes, and then that Thug Life stamp appearing on the screen, and some of that old Ice Cube playing. Oh God, Grandpa Patty. See, y'all need to leave these Depression era folks alone. That reminds me of that guy. People try to make it out to be a race thing, but I don't think it was a race thing. This was a generational thing. Old Vietnam era vet was on a bus. Asked a black guy a question. He's a white Vietnam vet. He asked a black guy a question, and he was just being innocent and asking him an innocent question. Well, the black guy got offended and goes up there and starts threatening him and starts doing this, that, and the other. And then the guy like, look, man, just leave me alone. It's all good. I'm sorry. Leave me alone. Well, the black guy pushes it. And that Vietnam vet came up. Whack! Leave the vets alone. He got his butt whooped by a Vietnam vet who was 20 years older than he was. He was like 40 something, and this guy was like 60 something. But at the same time, even though I'm a former Marine, or even though I'm a Marine, I wouldn't feel too bad if I got my butt handed to me by a Vietnam vet. Because some Vietnam vets I wouldn't feel bad at all. Hey, that old man handed you your butt. Yep, he's a Vietnam vet. Oh. Just leave our old folks alone. Okay. Now, I haven't read this one at all. All I read was maybe the first 2 lines or so. But this is from Nidenikolev. No. Nidenikolev. Nidenikolev. When I was a kid, my brother and I would get stuck with babysitting the neighbor's kid. His name was Alex. Alex was really fond of my Lego set that I had in the corner of my room, facing the window. He would play for hours, staying preoccupied while my brother and I would play video games in the living room. So one night when I fell asleep on the couch while babysitting, my brother came to me and said, Alex is under your bed and shaking. I asked, what's wrong with him? My brother told me to follow him into the room and try to talk to him back out from under the bed. I go inside to find him on the verge of tears as he was trembling profusely under my bed. I asked Alex, "What's wrong? Why are you under there?" Alex whimpered, "Him," while looking my sibling at my sibling closet. As I walked toward the bed in order to help him out, he ran all the way back over to his house and waited on his front steps until his parents got home. Now, my parents were out to dinner with his, and he explained the whole story in detail to both his parents and mine. His explanation sent shivers down my spine when my brother and I left the house to meet up with his parents and found out what happened. My mom told me that Alex was playing with my Legos and heard a slight murmur from my closet. Something that resembled a faint vocalization of, "Come here." He said that he looked behind him and noticed the closet had a slight opening with light peering in from my lamp. He stared at the crack until he saw an eyelid open. He told us that there was a man in my closet. Alex didn't hid under my bed after he gave out a slight yelp, which attracted my brother's attention. My family rushes back into my house and into my room. In horror, we find my closet door rocked open and a few things missing. My window had been left open when it was previously closed, and a few things knocked over which had not been touched previously. We still don't know what force we were reckoning after that evening. Thank God nothing more severe happened. Wow. What? Oh my goodness, what can you really say to that? That is scary. So basically, somebody broke into the house and tried to get Alex to come to him? Or was it some kind of entity trying to get Alex's attention? Wow. That's scary. Okay, let's move on. This story is by NWBoomer, or as I like to say, and I could be wrong, but Northwest Boomer. Told the story before, but wife and I were in a motel room. She was asleep and I was just starting to doze off when I heard a male voice speak just above a whisper. "I think they're asleep now." I flew out of bed, turned on all the lights, looked in the bathroom, the shower, under the bed, behind the curtains, checked the window. I mean, it was a motel room. Where could someone hide? I realized I had experienced a hypnagogic hallucination. Hypnagogic hallucination. If I had not known about hypnagogic hallucinations, I would have concluded the room was haunted. Okay. This should put a little faith into this video. This should breathe a little faith into this video, into your heart. It'll help you out. It'll be one of those things that help you to stand up against fear if you're still fearful. A hypnagogic hallucination is also known as a sleep hallucination. Now, I'm going to read some facts about sleep hallucinations, and I want you to just listen and just consider them. And if you have experienced anything that's remotely familiar to a sleep hallucination or a hypnagogic hallucination, then that should tear away the veil to help you to see more clearly what really happened to you. Okay. Sleep-related hallucinations or a parasomnia. A parasomnia involves undesired events that come along with sleep. Sleep-related hallucinations are imagined events that seem very real. They are mainly visual. They may also involve your senses of sound, touch, taste, and smell. They may even involve a sense of motion. It is easy to confuse them with a state of dreaming. You may not be sure if you are awake or asleep. They may be similar to nightmares, but when you wake up from a nightmare, you are aware that it occurred while you were asleep. It is clearly recognized as a dream. It is not thought to be real. They generally occur at one of the two following times: as you are about to fall asleep, hypnagogic, as you are waking up, hypnopompic. If they occur during the day, then they may be a sign of narcolepsy. People with narcolepsy may have daytime episodes of the following: sleep attacks, sleep paralysis, hypnagogic hallucinations. The hallucination and the sleep paralysis may occur at the same time, but on different nights. You may also have separate episodes of sleep talking or sleepwalking. You may also have complex visual hallucinations in the form of stationary images of people or animals. These tend to occur just after you are suddenly awakened. You do not recall being in the middle of a dream when you wake up. You clearly know that you are awake. At first, you are often afraid and think that the images are real. You may jump out of bed in terror. This can cause you to injure yourself. These images may be distorted in shape or size. They may remain present for many minutes. They tend to go away if a light is turned on. These episodes are much rarer. In times, they may be caused by migraine headache. In this case, the headache quickly follows the visual images. So, you look at that and be the judge. And I'm going to post a link about hypnagogic hallucinations and sleep hallucinations down there in the thing, so that you can do some research of your own. Now, you think back to all the times you've had these dreams that you're asleep and somebody is jumping on you and screaming in your face. It's not necessarily a demon. We used to call her the hag. Thing is, when it happens, it can be remedied. I'm sorry. It's getting near time for me to get some shut-eye before I go off to work. But these hallucinations occur, and we have them, and we attribute them to the spiritual realm. We attribute them to external forces, when really they're just natural occurrences to human beings. These are natural things that happen to us from time to time. This is why knowledge is power, because the more you know, the more you can, the better informed you'll be. The more you know, the less likely you are to hurt yourself, and the less likely you are to have people look at you like you're crazy. Which brings into perspective a lot of my experiences growing up, but not all of them. I've had some experiences that this little overview and facts about sleep hallucinations cannot explain. But, yeah, it is what it is. But you read it, you judge for yourself, and you let that be your guide to a proper response to what happened to you. And be careful out there. There's people out there that want to take advantage of you. They'll kidnap a child. They'll kidnap a woman. They'll kidnap a man if they could. You know, you've got to be wary of people. You've got to be aware of what's going on around you. And because people, there's just some evil people in this world. I mean, you know, they are out there, and we need to be careful about them. We need to be mindful of them. And we need to take precautions to protect ourselves. You shouldn't be going out drinking. A man shouldn't be going out drinking by himself and walking home intoxicated. All right? You know, why would a woman do it? You know, they are the ones that are going to get exploited more than a man. And then don't let a child be out. Not that a child go out drinking, but you know, you just gotta be mindful of where your kids are. You gotta be mindful of what it is they're doing, because there's always somebody out there waiting in the shadows to take advantage of them. And you've got to be diligent to protect them. So, pay attention, focus. I hope you've enjoyed this segment of Scary Reddit Stories. I apologize if I expressed too much of my opinion and too much of my emotions concerning certain topics that I covered tonight. Please don't hold that against me. Please understand that everyone has their opinions on different subjects, just like you got yours, I got mine. But don't let that sway you away from me. I'm quite understanding, and I understand that there are some things that I don't know, some things that I need to learn. So, just understand that. Just be a little understanding. Let me have my opinion, even if you disagree. Now, I made a post on Instagram and on Facebook that I was going to do another spending time with you video, and that was supposed to be my next video, not this one, but I am gonna do one. My last video that I did like that, it broke 10,000 views a couple of weeks ago, and so that got me excited about doing another one. And out of all of my videos, that one is the one that's been the most received. So I'm going to do another one, and I'm going to try to make it as personal and as soft-spoken as possible, and I hope it's very enjoyable. I had so many ideas. There's so many things that I wanted to talk about, so many things that I wanted to role play, but I'm limited on time, money, and technology. So those are the three giants that stand before me. I did get the job that I was looking for when I first moved here. I got the job, so I will be starting that soon. And it's probably going to take up a lot more of my time the first month because I'm gonna be doing some OJT, and I'm gonna be thrown here, there, and everywhere. But that's a good thing. It's all to get me experience. And once I get a set, stable schedule, things will be fine. I'll be able to more budget my time. That way I can make better videos, longer videos, and with the better pay, I can tackle the technological issues. I don't know if I'll get a new laptop, but I will definitely be able to get a better camera, because while this camera is a good camera, its features are limited, and I need better lighting. I don't know if many of you would notice or not, but I'm a dark-skinned black man, and one of the greatest fights of me making YouTube videos is having lighting, because I like to be able to see my face, and I like for you to be able to see my face. And so I'm working on all of that. All of that's coming. I'll be making improvements as time goes on. And again, thank you. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. I know you could be watching anything else, even if you're not watching right now, but you've clicked on the video, and maybe you are listening, and maybe you've drifted off, and I'm just mumbling in your ear, incoherently, but that's okay. That's okay. Go ahead and catch your Z's. That's why I make these videos, because there was videos like these that helped me, not only entertained me, but it helped me to get to work that stress out of my head and help me to fall asleep. And even when I got my device to help me sleep, I still listen to different and various ASMR artists, from the guys at the top like Ephemeral Rift to the guys at the bottom that just made one video and decided to post one. So, and I know I'm friends with a lot of you guys on Facebook. I know I don't communicate much. I apologize, but at the same time, there's relatives that I have had on Facebook for years, and I have not spoken to them in years on Facebook, so that counts for something. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to making many more videos should time allow, and I will see you later.